Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Notre Dame fans, whenever you are tuning in. If you're watching live, you're watching back, you're listening to this as a podcast. Really appreciate you for making us part of your day. I'm Mike Singer. With me is Bob Morton, former Notre Dame offensive lineman from 2002 to 2006. Joining me each and every Tuesday, in season, off season, and then most, if not like all, post-game shows.
We're working on it, right? We're working on it.
Working on that, but I thought Bob did an incredible job. If you guys watched the post-game show, yeah, Bob was tremendous. Eric Hansen brought it as well, so that was a lot of fun. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. Of course, go to blueandgold.com, your home for all things Notre Dame Fighting Irish football, recruiting coverage, football and recruiting coverage online. And the Notre Dame Football Show is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Tailgate season's here. No one's going to get you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. So swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend, folks, with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day, with 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including one coming to Mishawaka. On the website, it says it opens on September 29th. I mean, there are great options for you folks living in the Hoosier State, and Academies nationwide. So gear up today with Academy Sports and Outdoors. Well, Bob, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, you know what? I'm doing a lot better today than I was Sunday night, Monday morning. I see a lot of the comments coming in on the chat already. Feels like we need to have a little bit of a therapy session.
Let's have it.
But I'm just feeling like today the sky isn't falling, right? Like, looking back at that tape, it's as bad as we thought it was, but kind of getting out of the emotions of like feeling disappointed, feeling like we thought we had a better team. We were told we had a better team. Kind of the feelings almost of being hoodwinked, like in the moment, like getting away from that and just looking at what's on the tape. Things make a little more sense. And while it's a pretty maybe narrow path, I do see a path over the next 10 days where this team can come out and just put on a performance that's much different against Texas A&M. And that's ultimately what we all want.
All right, well, that just summed up the show. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Just kidding with that. That seriously does kind of, summarize what the feeling is. And I'm right there with you, Bob. Like, for Irish fans, like, just think about yelling in YouTube comments and tweets and message board posts about, like, you want a homegrown quarterback and you got the homegrown quarterback, and he may have made a couple mistakes and whatnot. Every young quarterback makes mistakes. Shit, Riley Leonard made so many mistakes. He threw one of the worst picks I've ever seen. Yeah, but Carr, I mean, you have the quarterback right. When you get the quarterback right, that is the biggest piece. I mean, I feel so much better coming off of a Notre Dame loss, knowing that you have the quarterback right, and you have him for, I mean, how many more years? A couple more years, 2-3 years, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about, like, man, how long are we going to have him? That's usually a good thing, because
it is. And one of the things that, Eric, kind of said jokingly, right? Like, one of the reasons we think so fondly of Brady Quinn is because we knew that there were some lapses kind of on that 03-04 team. The protection from the center guard, Bob Morton, wasn't always there, but his skill set, his ability to just kind of step right, step left, deliver the ball, really covered over just a lot of the sins kind of the offense. And we saw that really break into success there in 05 and 06. I mean, if you look at, we'll talk about probably all of these things.
Yeah.
I would say it was a poorly executed game plan. You could argue poorly designed game plan. We'll talk about that. Poorly executed game plan, horrendous performance by an offensive line we expected so much more out of. You've got 4 of your 6 team captains that graded out in the lowest level of the PFF, Pro Football Focus grades. And you were still able to come back with 2 minutes left because of the performance of your first-time starting quarterback.
Yeah.
When Eric Hansen on Sunday said that a good quarterback can cover a lot of the issues of a team. That's exactly what he meant. Even when things weren't going in our favor, when there was no momentum, when the protection wasn't there, CJ Carr still was.
Yeah.
Now, this team has to do is figure out, how do we get ready for CJ Carr's off night? How do we make sure that we're ready to step up when he has that, kind of that rookie year game that everybody has? And there's a lot of work that we need to talk about. That I'm glad we have 2 shows before the next game, because we've got a lot of work to talk about before Texas A&M.
Yeah. And I hope I'm not like glazing up Carr too much, like in just my praise. But the biggest thing, the mobility was great. His ability to keep the ball, or like his eyes downfield. Like he just throws a really pretty ball, but it was like how unfazed he was. Like his previous start before that game, spring games don't count. Was his senior year in the Michigan playoffs.
Yep.
And I think, if I remember correctly, the game they got smoked by Bryce Underwood's team. If I'm remembering that correctly, it might have been a regular season game, but like otherwise, like just high school ball in Michigan, it's good. It's not great. And then you go from that, a couple years before, to starting on the road against a Miami team that I think's got a really good chance to end up in the college football playoff. Like that is what has me feeling so good. Like, yes, he's going to have that freshman first year starter moment or two for sure, or that game, I should say. But man, like the upside is tremendous here, and that's what has me so like confident.
Well, and I think too, right? Like if we're just sitting here and just saying that CJ Carr is the best quarterback ever, like it doesn't make sense, right? But I think in a game where we had high expectations of every position group,
except for probably CJ, right?
Except for him. So I felt like we were overpromised in every position group and they underdelivered. And then we kind of had some tempered expectations for 13, and he over-delivered and almost got the win, right? So for me, it's not that we're pumping him up just entirely on what he's going to be, but he's the one area of this team that we felt like was the biggest question mark. And we came out of game 1 feeling like we've at least got a period, if not an exclamation point, after 13. We just got to figure the rest of this stuff out.
Probably the tight ends was the other one that you had the biggest question marks about on the team. Subjective. Maybe, throw in D-line but like, what'd you make of Eli Raridon's performance? Because it was hot and cold. He by far led Notre Dame receiving. The 65-yard reception helped, but he got called on the holding. I don't know what your thoughts were, if that was actually a holding. I thought it looked like a good clean pancake to me, but had a drop on a couple other balls maybe he wished he would have caught, but weren't great passes. But yeah, 5 for 97, 9 targets, drop or 2. What did you make of Raritan? And then, he was the only tight end who played besides Ty Washington, who had one snap.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. I think that there are times, like I remember texting, Eric Hansen and some others during the game, like where was Jalen Sneed, right? Like I was trying to figure out what kind of game he had, but as I watched back at the tape, I realized that he was pretty assignment sound, right? So even though his numbers in terms of production weren't where I want Sneed's to be, his performance was pretty good. Eli Raritan, as our tight end, on the other hand, his numbers looked pretty good, but as you kind of got into the tape, the reason why you have a tight end and not another wide receiver is because you expect that tight end to be able to block. And I feel like the ways that we used 9 in the blocking game, in the run game, and the way that he was kind of tentative in the hole when he was the lead blocker, the way that he didn't really lower his shoulder when he had the ball in his hand, I would say Eli's numbers looked better than his performance was. And so I think it's something that he can grow on. I think it's great. You've got a tight end that can be that kind of target for a young quarterback. But but we don't want to have just another receiver that we're going to split out wide. We need to use, and I think we used him well last year as a blocker, but we changed the blocking scheme a little bit with him, and I just don't know if it's most effective for his skill set. So, great game by the numbers, not so great what I saw on film, especially because I think everybody here knows our running game was basically non-existent, and we're going to need all hands on deck, especially our tight end, to be able to make that better.
PFF is good, is like really good for like snap count data, and they have like a passing charts as well to see like where the quarterbacks are throwing the ball. There's some really good like just factual data, and then they have their grades, which is we always call them data points. They're interesting, but like I don't use them as gospel. Eli Raridan's run blocking grade was a 37, which is not great.
Yeah, there were a couple times
played a lot.
that they were using him as a power blocker to actually come up in the hole and lead the way. There were several times that the person he was supposed to block came through unblocked and made the tackle. There were other times that he hit the wrong guy or got chipped off by penetration from the offensive line. I felt like when he was the lead blocker, there wasn't a single time that we really broke free, except for the questionable holding call. Here's what I'll say. You got to be really careful when you're on the edge with your outside hand. I thought his hands pulled in tight enough to not get that hold, but I also feel like the Lord might have just been getting at us because on that same play, Anthony Knapp didn't step with his left foot to reach his guy. You could have flagged a hold on Knapp inside of Raridan on that one. And so the edge was not set effectively that play or for much of the entire game, with the exception, of I think Jadarian Price had a couple of runs off the edge there.
All right. So when you rewatch the game, was there anything that stood out to you that maybe you were at the game, which is a whole different beast than just being able to watch from the couch and be like, all right, I'm going to watch for these specific things. But rewatching, was there anything that maybe surprised you, good or bad?
Yeah, I'm Mike, I got to be honest. I'm ready for the comments to come after me for making this statement.
Don't care. Let it rip, dude.
Because I think we can all agree that the offensive game plan left a lot to be desired. What I will say is the early first quarter game plan made more sense to me when I was able to watch on film and realize a lot of these screens to the outside
RPOs
were what I thought they were. They were kind of RPOs or check with me's.
They were. And Bob, let me interrupt you. I was talking to someone who watched the tape who, I also I'll just say I trust their football mind. They were like, not only were those RPOs, they were, the staff wanted probably like most likely wanted those to be handoffs.
Yeah.
Like maybe just don't even call don't call the RPOs, just call a screen.
Yeah.
Or call And I guess like Miami maybe did some things that like took CJ by surprise. So like, yeah, CJ was amazing, but there's some like very nuanced quarterbacking things that I think maybe he slipped up on, like throwing some of those screens. The interception was one. So there was a few instances, and I'll turn it back to you, Bob, where it's appeared by my very knowledgeable football friend that it was an RPO that they probably wanted to be handed off to J Love that Carr did throw because of what Miami did with their look.
Yeah, and I'm a little confused as to what they have 13 looking at on some of those. To me, sometimes it's a really simple numbers game. If we've got 6 blockers and they've got 6 guys in the box, we'll carry anybody else. We should be able to get 5 yards in a cloud of rubber pellets at that point, right? But I understood Denbrock's game plan with those RPOs to get the ball out laterally. We had some success in that first drive. Obviously, we kind of went back to the well with the screen. What I started seeing from that screen onward is whether it was a quick pass or a run, I think you started to see that our offensive line, at least on Sunday night, was outmatched. Any run that they were calling, these runs that they have, run in this offense for the last 2 years, they were not getting from their pulling guard and tackle what they wanted to get from their pulling guard and tackle. They were not getting any push off the ball like they need to get. There were very, very small cracks and crevices to run through, and there was no time for CJ Carr to sit in the pocket on a deep 3 or a 5-step drop. And so we can all say that if Denbrock would have called the game differently, we could have gotten J Love, we could have gotten Jadarian, we could have gotten our running game off on the right foot. What I saw on film is there was probably one series and maybe 4 plays in a row that the run plays were blocked effectively and aggressively. With the exception of that, we underperformed hat on a hat the entire night. And so I just think the game didn't come back to where we could control it. That's not going to satisfy people who still want to call for Denbrock's head, but I saw things early on that prevented him from just coming in back to the running game because the blocking was that poor.
Yeah. Folks, hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. Of course, go to blueandgold.com. Reflecting on Notre Dame's loss to Miami with former Irish offensive lineman Bob Morton. Great stuff from Bob. Super happy to have him here at Blue and Gold. Let's see. I mean, just generally, would you say you feel better or worse about like where the football team is at with the context of bye week and then A&M, like after your rewatch? Like, are you more frustrated after seeing the O-line play like you just talked about, or what?
Yeah. So do I feel better or worse? Yes, I do. I feel better and I feel worse. Listen, okay. I feel better because of the way things transpired by the end of the game. That was about as bad a performance that I could have imagined up front as an offensive line, right? The only person that I was excited to watch play by the end of the game was Ashton Craig. Can't say enough about how well he did. Something that you guys, may not have seen, maybe you did, is at the beginning of the game, Craig was blocking back and Schrouth would be pulling around to either kick out the end or to pull up in on a power just to get things going. But by the end of the game, it wasn't Schrouth pulling, it was actually Craig who would snap the ball and pull himself, because he's just better in space. Right. So not only was he kind of a pretty good rock in the middle there for pass protection, he was communicating things, even though it didn't always get to the guards. We can talk about some youth and Garby Lambert. I think he missed a couple of calls at the line there, but Ashton Craig had a really good game, through and through. I'm excited that I think we have time to go back to the drawing board to fix some of our running plan. And I think that can be really effective. What worries me is there's also just a lot of technique issues that are coming from people that are not first-year players, that are coming from guys with C's on their chest. And if you're not ready to go and play with good technique week 1 in Miami against a top 10 team, like, what are you going to do in 10 days in order to get back? How do you go back to the fundamentals enough to really fix what might be broken? And so that's my concern, is on the individual level, how are we going to see these players get ready? Was this just an aberration? It's hard to think this could have been an aberration when so many people aberrated at the same time.
What about the defense, Bob? What'd you see on that side of the ball?
So defensively, 2 things. One is it felt like we hung on, and maybe this is a critique of the entire game, right? It never felt like we were able to transition from fighting from behind to getting aggressive and taking the top and trying to mount and ground and pound. It just never felt like we felt like we had momentum. Everything felt like, we're relieved that we got within 7. We're relieved we got that field goal. We're relieved we got that first down. We're relieved we stopped them on 3rd and 2. Everything felt like a relief. It didn't feel like there was energy. 2 guys that I want to say I want to see more of. Give me Jalen Stroman's energy all day long. After the play, kind of pushing folks, like John with guys. When he made a play, he's coming up, he's celebrating with other guys. Like, we need that energy to start permeating through our defense. The other one, he needs to be on the field a little bit more because he does everything. I'm just going to go with the letters. I'm not going to mess up the name. KVA. Like, when he would, in the first or second quarter, he shoulders a pulling lead blocker, blows up that blocker, and then makes the tackle 3 yards in the backfield, comes up, and his head's just bobbing up and down, up and down. Like they now they know. They didn't know, but now they know. And I just feel like that confidence lacked almost everywhere on Sunday night. I want to see more of that coming from playmakers. The second thing I'll say about the defense is that I don't get this defense.
Okay.
I understood from a very early point in time what our previous D coordinator, what Al Golden was trying to do, right? What I don't understand about the performance that we put on Sunday is that we were talking about what Chris Ash does well is finding ways to get pressure with 4, creative pressures with 4, sometimes zone blitzing, things like that. Marcus, Coach Freeman talked about we want to get pressure with 4. And yet when I look at play after play after play of passing downs, we're just coming off the ball, putting our hands in the middle of a 330-pound guard or tackle and trying to push them backwards. Well, if you're going to try and get pressure with 4, you can't go through a tree. You've got to try and go around it. So if we're going to try and get pressure with our down linemen were not up to snuff. The only down lineman that I wanted to see more of was Jared Dawson.
Yeah.
Because when he was defending the run, he was aggressive. He wasn't getting blown back. And when he was in there for a pass rush, he attacked the edge. As an offensive lineman, if you come right into my chest, even if I'm high, there's no way you're going to be able to get through me to the quarterback by the time our quarterback can get rid of the ball. So you've got to attack an edge to try and really pressure me inside or outside. And it felt like our interior linemen specifically, but even our defensive ends, were content to just push the offensive linemen back and try and pressure Carson Beck rather than really try and get outside, inside, or try something different. The only exception to that, other than Jared Dawson, was when Traore, pulled his spin move on the 3-man rush, and he ended up getting a sack out of it. So
the irony.
It's there.
Yeah.
But if our game plan is going to be to get pressure with down linemen, I don't know that we have the down linemen to get pressure every time or anytime.
Yeah, which was the case a lot last year. Just pressure at the DN spot was not there. Besides RJ Oben getting the play of his life in a absolutely crucial spot against the freaking Georgia Bulldogs, SEC champs. But that's a little concerning. One more thing on the defense, Bob. Cameron says, looking back on the film, and this is a loaded question if you're not really thinking about it as you're watching the tape, but anything jump out to you, thoughts on Ash versus Golden schemes?
Yeah, let me just talk about the result of the scheme. I felt like what Coach Golden wanted his team to do was get in position, start in position, diagnose on the fly and fly around. I felt like I had never seen a Notre Dame defense move as fast as we have over the last 3 years. What was so hard for me was not that what I saw on Sunday night was the worst defense I've ever seen. What I saw on Sunday night reminded me of Notre Dame's defense 5 or 10 years ago. For all the speed we have in key positions, it felt like we were a step slow on everything, on the zone run, on an inside slant, on the running back release that killed us in the 2-minute warning. It just felt like we were spending time trying to figure out what was going on, and we were a step behind everywhere. And so if that is just not understanding the scope of the defense or not understanding your role in it or not understanding exactly where you fit, we had linebackers, multiple blitzes running into each other. That's 2 guys being blocked by 1 when you do that. If everybody's messing up on what you're asking them to do, then something might be wrong with what you're asking them to do. And so I was not impressed with week 1. I can't say I don't know Chris Ash. I don't know anything else other than what I saw on Sunday night, but it just looked like it was not a step forward from the pedestal that he had with Coach Golden's defense last year.
Ginger says, in the defensive line's defense, the coverage was so soft, hard to get to quarterback when he's getting rid of the ball in 2 seconds. I mean, there was one time where Beck just like threw out a swing pass that went
Yeah.
for several yards, and I was like, I mean, there are just I may have it pulled up for us to watch. I don't know if I do or not, but later in the show at least. But yeah, like there's just it was very much one of those things where you rushed 4 and they just ran into a tree, and that was the end of it. Like so, yeah, there was definitely soft coverage at times. And Beck did get rid of the ball very fast at times, but
Yeah.
there were definitely times where he had all day to throw as well. He had a clean jersey.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times that we were seeing like soft man it might have actually been like drop third zone coverage, right? Where the two corners are dropping back, you've got one safety in the middle, and you're trying to get pressure with 4, and you're just trying to cover as much space as you can. The problem is when you're dropping your corners deep, you are really susceptible for kind of quick hitches or comeback routes unless you have linebackers that get out there. And there was always those holes in the zone. And Carson Beck, like, listen, we can sit there and talk about what he isn't all the time, but if anything, he trusts his arm too much. Look at that second touchdown, throwing it while jumping backwards. But like he can diagnose his own defense and he can fit it into tight windows, and the windows weren't all that tight in the zone. So if we're going to be a zone defense, we've got to be a lot better at it. I think we've got the dogs to be able to play more man, and I'd like to see us rely on that way more and try and bring some pressure with our gifted pass rushing linebackers, KVA being one, Snead being another.
Folks, this episode is brought to you by ESQ, which is seeing on all your Notre Dame, well, I should say favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. As we talked about last week, ESQ used Mike Singer's photo from a Peyton Bowen game a couple years ago where Freeman was at the game with Chris O'Leary, saw me snapping the pic, and there's Freeman rocking his ESQ, which is founded by Notre Dame alum Ga Wang. ESQ is your go-to spot for the best handmade custom suits, sport coats, tuxedo shirts, and more. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. Mention Blue and Gold at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. I do even have, I don't know why the qualities of these photos is looking crappy, but these are some Blue and Gold photos actually. So there's Freeman. These are all Freeman rocking ESQ. You got the tan, and then the green looks tremendous on Coach Freeman. So check it out, esqclothing.com. Let them know that Blue and Gold sent you and receive 10% off your entire purchase. All right, what have we got next? Okay, yeah, this is a big one. And I want your take. All right, so 3 different things I want to talk about, Bob. And I'm going to say all 3 of these things so we remember. Is 1, what does Notre Dame need to accomplish during the bye week? 2, okay, so like that take being about this team right now. 2, in your experience on bye weeks, like how actually helpful are they? And 3, how much better can the offensive line and defensive line, throw them in there, or whatever units you felt really struggled, how much better can they actually improve during the bye week? Because like, if you're not good at something, it's really hard. I don't care if it's football, it's just hard to get better at it in just a week. Like, it's really hard to like get that much better. So if it's like, man, this position unit, this player, whatever, stinks, they're not up to par for what Notre Dame should be. How much better can you get in the next week and a half? So, got a lot. So I'll try to help remember each 3 of these things. But let's just start with that first one, Bob. What does Notre Dame really need to accomplish during their bye week?
Yeah, I think that what this team really needs to accomplish is to like find a fire, right? Like I don't think actually a fire was lost by any means. Like I don't think that this team's not like overly exhausted or anything like that. Like I think when I say find the fire, Like you had some pretty key veteran, emotional, vocal leaders a year ago. And so the style of coaching that you had played into that. Well, now that you have some of your best players being more reserved, quiet players, you've lost some of that vocal leadership. You've got to find it somewhere. And so is that coaches building that fire? Is it other players that aren't captains building that fire? Do some of the captains need to find their voice? Do some of the vocal captains need to find their game again? Right? Like it's hard to be a vocal leader when you're operating in the bottom third of performance stats, right? So I think that this team needs to find their fire, number one. The second thing is, I don't think they need to scrap everything and go back to the drawing board, but I do think they need to be willing to spend some time at the drawing board. Because if you look at it just on paper, this offensive line looked at least okay against this defensive line, and then both the offensive and defensive line looked outmatched against Miami. You can't have that going forward. So if Denbrock sees, some tendencies or some inabilities of his offensive linemen, it is not just up to the linemen to get better as players. It's also up to the coach to put them in situations that they can actually be successful. Case in point, I love Billy Schrauth. I think Billy Schrauth is one of your captains, rightfully so. He did not have a good night pulling out of the left guard spot. So if Billy is not going to be comfortable or effective pulling from the left guard spot, we don't want to put 74 in a position where he's pulling out of the left guard spot. Let's just run a zone, or let's pull Ashton Craig. We don't, if every single time we run a zone to the right, the defensive end on the left is crashing and making that play, well, let's game plan one of two things. Let's read him with the quarterback, not to throw an outside screen, but to go ahead and run off the edge for 5 and a slide. Or let's do what we did last year when we would bring our big receiver, or we would bring Eli Raridan across the line and just block that backside end, which creates a cutback opportunity. I want you to think about how many big runs for 4 and 24 last year were based off one cutbacks and getting downfield. And we didn't have any of that because that backside end was crashing in. We've got to be willing to go back to the drawing board and figure out what plays are going to work for the offensive line that we just saw. And on defense, the same thing. We're going to see stats that, hey, we played this much zone, we played this much man, this much cover 3, this much X, Y, and Z. We're going to look at all those things. We should not need a 12-man defensive line rotation. We're not going to have the same heat and humidity in South Bend as we did in Miami. So who are the guys that are going to be effective against the run? Who are the guys we're going to sprint in for pass rush on third down? What are the ways that we can be effective with the DBs that we have? Because I think if you can have man coverage with something on the back end, cover 1 or 2, we've got some guys that can put the clamps on. But if they're going to be switching up between man and then sometimes having to run, kind of deep cover zone, man, it's just adding too many curveballs to really sit on a 4-seam fastball. You're muted. I know. It's such good stuff.
I got once to show. One to show. I'll mute. So it sounds like, all right, the player has to get mentally adjusted, right? He's got to get himself to playing his best ball, and then the coaches need to, like the Schrauth example, get their players in the best position to make plays. It sounds simple, but it's also complex.
Yeah, and I'd say let's look at 2 different positions, right? So we've got our 2 guards. You've got, I'm going to say Gary Lambert, just because when Sullivan Absher came in, some of the pass pro was real bad. And so we're going to say Gary Lambert's that starting right guard, Billy Schrauth's the starting left guard. And those 2 guys can improve individually, absolutely. But I think some of what Denbrock and Rudolph can do is make sure that we either limit or expand the playbook to run plays where they can be successful.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a partnership that you got there, because they didn't just look terrible one-on-one. Our two tackles, for everything that we expected,
Yeah.
I don't know that you can protect them with coaching. Emil Wagner is a senior, a captain, a guy that we touted as going against 8 NFL, draftees a year ago, and it looked like he'd never taken a pass set before. Like, I just never seen anything like it. And so, like, he's got to go back to the fundamentals of kicking back and not kicking out, because for a senior offensive tackle to get spun around multiple times in a game like that, it's just not it. He's not putting together highlight reel film except for the other team on a couple of those plays.
Jeez.
Anthony Knapp, on the other hand, and listen, I say that because I'm on plenty of Michigan State defensive linemen's highlight reels. I'll say that openly. Anthony Knapp looked amazing in his pass sets for the first 1.5 seconds of every drop back. It was when he tried to block that he ended up getting in trouble and getting beat around the outside. His feet would stop, his hands would drop, his helmet would go forward, and he got beat around the edge nearly every single time. They both had awful games in completely different ways. But you can't run a pass game and have offensive tackles that aren't going to pass block one-on-one. So some of it is like, you got to buck up. Do you have to make a hard decision somewhere? Maybe. I don't know what they're going to do there. I don't propose to know what a good idea is.
Yeah.
All of my good ideas came for naught for week one. But I think that you've got to find some way to motivate those two tackles to never have a game like they did on Sunday night. And you've got to find a scheme, running and passing, that protects everyone a little bit, that allows them to be aggressive and be the athletes that we know they are.
Let's go to your experience during bye weeks. I mean, how helpful can they actually be, like, coming off a stinker?
I mean, so my favorite season ever, I think, it might have been the 05 season, and we had it split up to where we had 4 3-week seasons. Like, it was just, we had a bye week every 4th week, and it allowed us to split the season up into quarters, and it allowed us to really, like, lean in on what we did well and what we didn't do well, and then it really allowed us to turn the page. And this team doesn't need to rest players. This team right now doesn't need to get young kids, young players experience. That's a later in the year type thing. What this team, like, really needs is to learn from the first competitive tape this team put on camera this season, and then they've got to find a way to turn the page. And Marcus, I loved his post-game, conversations about staying together and going back to work. But I think the job has to look different now, because the way we prepared, we were okay preparing with a certain energy level, a certain execution level, a certain attitude and swagger, or lack thereof. We've got 10 days to make sure that our attitude level is enough to raise the volume in our home stadium and make it a place that nobody else wants to play. And so that's up to Marcus and coaches to really figure out not just how we go back to work, but how do we change the job that we were doing.
And then the third part about that was how much better the O-line can actually get in 10 days. And I think we talked about that.
Yeah, I would say there's some coaching that's going to happen that will unlock some mind-body connections, with these offensive linemen. I will openly say, like, I don't know. I truly believe that Anthony Knapp and Emil Wagner have far better games in them, that this is not just a precursor for a flop of a season by them, but technique-wise, like, you've had a whole offseason of technique, and I don't know how much focusing on what they did really poorly is going to, like, really make its way onto the field, 2 Saturdays from now. My hope is that it is, but I mean, I hope that we're also ready to give them some help on the outside too.
I feel like for us common folk, if we see, like, a quarterback throw an interception, or a receiver drop a ball, or a running back, maybe has a misread or something, but that player can do the correct thing. You just know they can.
Yeah.
Like, or they're going to develop. It's like, man, CJ Carr, he's not going to make those mistakes game 10 compared to game 1. that's easy for us. But for an offensive line, how much of it is the mental part and how much of it is if I engage the defensive end and I can't, and I'm just not good enough, I'm not strong enough to block him, like you can't fix that like you can fix, like if you've got a noodle arm and you can only throw it 20 yards, then there's no fixing that. Like how much is that with offensive line and even if you want to throw in defensive line, am I making sense here? Like
Yeah. Yep.
is because like NIU Notre Dame got outmeted, right?
Yep.
That's what right, that was an offseason phrase. And then Notre Dame outmeted a lot of teams later in the
Yeah.
season that were a lot better than NIU. So is the sky falling on this, or can Notre Dame really improve on the O line?
I actually think that the area for improvement for this offense is a change of or a return to an identity. I think that we have to be a run first, play action pass team. I think we have to be run first, play action pass. I think if you look at us being a straight drop back pass protection team, I think that we're susceptible to blitzes. We're susceptible to line games right now. I don't know if it's the yips or if it's just that we've been scouted by defensive linemen of what our tackles are good and not very good at. All of that goes away when you seriously threaten a defense with a downhill run, right? That's the equalizer. That's the way that you can put a defense on their heels, get your hands on them, and once their feet stop, they're done. They're just waiting for the next play while your quarterback's able to let the routes develop, let the receivers that we've been waiting, for get a little bit open downfield, and let our quarterback throw that 10 to 17-yard intermediate route, which is really where you can make your money in the play action game. It's not all about the deep ball. It's not, for the love of God, 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. You've got to open up behind the linebackers, and the way we can do that is not with route trees. It's quite simply through running and play action pass. I think that's the way that we're going to kind of get our groove back as an offensive line. And then once we start to put together drives and get some of that momentum, it's amazing to see how that snowball continues to roll until you've got something, more like an avalanche going downhill. We just need that momentum to really start somewhere.
Sly Fox said, I don't know what this is in response to exactly, but he said, we said the same thing about Golden when he first came to Notre Dame, which made me think like, you guys did not like Al Golden at all early on. It took a lot to adjust. Like Chris Ash, like that's the thing. If the biggest concern about Notre Dame football right now is the O coordinator and the D coordinator, that's great because I have trust in those guys, especially Denbrock. Yep. I mean,
yep.
He's like you can make an argument he's the best offensive coordinator in college football. Like, or he's definitely top 5. Like,
yep.
You guys want to fire Mike Denbrock? Like, are you shitting me? Like, come on. So, that's that. Moving along, I had a guy tweet me. What did I say? Oh yeah, Notre Dame was still under bracketology, which look, it's way too early. It's whatever. It's just for fun. And a guy says, don't care if we're not winning a national championship. This season means nothing. So I was like, do you guys agree with Brian Stake? In other words, is it national championship or bust? Where do you land on this, Bob? Is it if Notre Dame does not win a national championship, it's a failure? Like, think about the Notre Dame fan who's 50 years old, 60 years old. They've been a fan for 20, 40 years, whatever. I have not seen it. Well, some of these, 30 years. I've been a fan for 30 years. I've never seen a title. Am I going to see one before I leave this earth? And anything short of a title is a failure for me. It's a subjective thing. Bob, where do you land on this?
Okay. Marcus talks about, I forget what's his terminology. I mean, it's essentially being the best that this team can be, like reaching the pinnacle of what this team can be. And I feel like as fans, it's hard for us to accept the fact that sometimes you're going to be second or third, or sometimes you're going to be 14th or 15th. And sometimes Like the win is that team getting to the absolute pinnacle of where that team could be. And I expect that. That's what you sign up for when you come play at Notre Dame, right? Like we don't have a conference championship. Now we can get into the playoff, but you don't get into the playoff just to show up and be on somebody else's map to the finals. So I would say until we are mathematically eliminated from the playoff, it's championship or nothing. And when we are mathematically eliminated, if we are mathematically eliminated from the playoff, then we can all get salty and bitch and moan about it all that we want. But then we have to reset expectations. What is it going to look like for this team to build the story for when we do win that national championship? So it is too early to say that it's a bust. We have a straight line path to that bracket, and this team can be ready for that bracket. There's a lot that needs to happen between now and then. And I just think we need to be hopeful, but let our team be hungry. Our team shouldn't be looking past Texas A&M. We can talk all we want to about should, could, would love to happen, but ultimately, everything that we're talking about in the playoff is for naught if the next 10 days aren't really effective for this Notre Dame football team.
Yeah, John says, of course the goal is to win a national championship. Yeah, no shit, the goal is. But I am asking you guys for your subjective opinion. If it's like, are you like Brian, this Twitter guy, don't care if we're not winning a national championship, season means nothing? Then like you have a very sad life. You just do. It's like, hey, Notre Dame, it's not making the playoff this year. I'm not watching anymore. Like you're supposed to be a fan. Also, guys, you have every right to be critical. These are kids, but they're also adults. But don't be nasty. Don't be talking shit. There's a difference between like being critical and talking shit about these players.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be a fan of them and their team.
I think it's really
to be a fan. Love them up. Come on.
I think it's really it is crazy, and I fell into this, right? So let me preface this by saying one of the things I learned from Tyrone Willingham is that he's never. This is his quote. I've never had a bad day. I've had a bad second, a bad minute. I've had plenty of bad hours, but I've never let it ruin my entire day. Now, I don't know that I've been that good at it. I would say my day was kind of ruined on Sunday and a little bit on Monday as well. But it's so crazy how quick I become entitled after seeing what was a special run last year. There was a bit of magic to last year. And I walked into Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday night with the expectation of magic. And again, these players signed up for that. These coaches sign up for that. But I do think it's a gut check to sit there and say, hey, these like 17 for some of them to 23-year-old young men, like there is a growth trajectory for them that allows the magic to happen sometimes. And last year, I don't know what your chat boards looked like, after NIU, but seeing what these chat boards are, I don't know that it was very pretty. And yet we became entitled a little bit to what the team did by the end of the year. I think that we have to see what this team does and how they rally and the grit that they show. And then as the season goes on, if the product is not developing, that's when I do think the fan has a responsibility to let their voice be heard appropriately about displeasure, about not just the wins and losses, but the effort, the growth, and the development. And so, I want to encourage the fans that watch this show that, your voices do matter. I'll also say, like, as somebody whose mom actively participated in message boards during my recruiting process, like there are parents and recruits who want to see what just the overall vibe of a fan base is. And you can be really intense without pushing young people away. And I would like to see Notre Dame continue to do that. There's so much special about this community that I absolutely love, that drew me to South Bend. I want to just see us continue it. So I hope that doesn't come across as a scolding. I mean, Mike might have scolded you a little bit, but I just think we have a really great opportunity to be a part of something special if we keep our eyes on the prize that's still out there for us. If we can hang on for a little longer so that if we can make it to the playoffs becomes the when.
Well, if my scolding didn't apply to you folks, the shoe doesn't fit, you're good. But if the shoe fits, then the shoe fits. That's all I got to say. We got 10 minutes left with Bob. So let's cover a good bit here. The other thing about the fan is you guys have more power than ever. Your voice is so much louder. Twitter used to be something where when I get on Twitter and I scroll my timeline, right, it was just who I followed in order of their tweets. And then if they retweeted something, if they reshared something, then I would see that. That was all it was. Now, I get on Twitter. Juicy J here, he's on our blue and gold message board. He's great. I don't follow Juicy J. He pops up on my timeline all the freaking time because it's an algorithm now. So you guys, like, if you have a tweet that pops off, or what do people love doing? They love going to the comments, right? You tweet something, you want to go look at what everyone's saying about that comment. So you guys have more of a voice than ever. So just like make it a good one. Just make it a good, impactful. That's it. Just think before you tweet. I mean, there's people who will like talk crap about a recruit, be like, "Oh, that kid sucks. Why are we taking a 3-star?" And they've responded to the kid. Like the kid can see it. It's just so stupid. Anyways, all right, you ready to go through some tweets, Bob?
Let's do it, man. Let's take a look.
So this is one from. I love this so much. Let me zoom in a little bit. I can't zoom in too much more. I got to stay away from the copyright. But this was a thing of beauty. This is the long ball to Eli Raridan, looking through the progression. So he's like looks like he's looking at this number one first. Might be Faison.
Hey, Mike, look at the pocket. Look at the pocket, Mike. There's actually a pocket there.
It's very pretty.
This might be the one play all game that there was a nice pocket. Well, until then. God damn it, Bob.
But still, I mean, he had 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I mean, you can't ask Ashton Craig to block for 4 or 5 seconds. But, I mean, this was beautiful. So, of course, you go to the O-line. I'm looking downfield at the receivers. But this was beautiful. Great active feet by Carr. And then goes through 3 or 4 progressions to find Eli Raridan. So what are your thoughts about this play?
Yeah, I think this is the type of offense that we can have this year that we couldn't have last year, right? Like, I mean, if Riley Leonard at this point of the year had to throw a 15-yard ball, it was either going to be a 10-yard ball or a 22-yard ball. Like, you just didn't know where it was going to go. He didn't have the pocket confidence. And so to have a young quarterback flipping his hips, working through the read, and delivering a ball, granted, to a wide open receiver, but enough for Eli to go ahead and work down the sideline, it's really impressive. And that's why I say run and play action pass needs to be an early identity for this team. Yeah. Let's grind out the running game and then utilize, like, let's not use our running backs as decoys to set up lateral throws. Let's run with them and then use them as decoys to then block and set the pocket so we can find somebody 15 yards downfield and soften the defense. And it feeds itself because then it's softer for the running game to come back in there. So I think it's a really good representation of what I'd like to see our offense do more of, not just in terms of success, but in design.
Did you watch this video from Landon Tengwall?
I believe so. Is this this might be like, is this where Wagner throws his hands out?
This is a lot. So if you're listening to this as a podcast, I'm sorry, you just have to come to
what the hell happened
to YouTube. This is Landon Tengwall, who is a Penn State offensive lineman who I covered in high school because he was considering Notre Dame, and he's got his own YouTube show now. Landon's great. He does a lot of Penn State stuff, but
so let me just say right here as an offensive lineman, what I'm seeing is you've got 5 men on defense on the line of scrimmage. This is big on big, right? So every single O lineman is just setting the person immediately on them with the two linebackers sugared up. You might see the guards eventually help inside, outside late, but they're setting as if all five of these guys, this is as easy of assignment protection as you're going to have.
All right, I'm just going to let this roll because, he talks over it. If you want me to pause at any point and you want to talk it over, just let me know. All right, Bob. All right.
What the hell happened to Notre Dame's offensive line against Miami Sunday night? Let's look at this pass pro from.
Did you want me to stop already, Bob?
Yeah. So I'll say, here's the first two things I'll say is let's just look at the tackles. You look at Emil Wagner.
Well, hold on. Let me add a couple quick context. These first two plays are the last drive.
Yeah. Yep.
So it doesn't excuse it, but everyone in the stadium knew that they were going to be throwing the ball deep downfield. Notre Dame had no timeouts. So there is that. This Miami, Bain and these guys are about to cook. That doesn't excuse it, but I do think it's important context.
Yeah, but I would say if it's a deep pass protection, Emil Wagner, what you want is you want to kick back. He kicks straight out and then has to replace his left foot on his right foot, and he's already behind that defensive end. I mean, there's no chance that he has to stop that defensive end. And so he was bad from the first kick. On the other side of the line, so that's Prescott, right? So that's not Knapp. His form looks really good as he kicks out there.
What the hell happened to?
But just like Knapp earlier in the game, he's in a great position. But as he goes to punch, he's leaning forward, his feet stop, and both tackles just kind of bring their defensive end right to the quarterback.
Yeah. All right, we'll let it roll.
Offensive line against Miami Sunday night. Let's look at this pass pro from Emil Wagner right here. Had a rough day. First off, this is not a position that you want to be in as an offensive tackle versus an elite defensive end. So right away, concedes the edge. You see how he drops this back foot? That gives a really soft edge for the DN to then bend around that and then be able to get home for the sack. I mean, he's bumping him in the back, and Emil is facing the opposite direction. So that's problem number one. Emil, once again, gets out here, and you see how he's retreating? He's not taking the fight to Bain. He's retreating back, and then drops this back foot again, soft edge, and you can't take on the bull rush. So he gets bowled back into the quarterback and lets up another sack there. One more time.
So those were the last two plays of the game.
Yeah.
So.
And I think one of the things that I would say is obviously big passing downs. You're not fully healthy on the left side there. Emil he had a rough day pass protection wise. The way I fix this is you add one more blocker, not in terms of, you need an extra blocker, but you need to slide the line so that your tackles only have to worry about one direction. So in this instance, if you look at this line sliding to our right, their left, Emil Wagner is still going to kick out on that D end. And then you're going to have a running back who's going to work inside of 59, between 59 and 76, and is either going to help 59 or is going to look to block 10, the linebacker, if he rushes. 76, the right guard, is going to slide to his left, our right, to help Ashton Craig on the nose. Ashton Craig is going to half man 99 the nose and be inside of Billy Schrouth to help on 5. Billy Schrouth is going to be on 5, knowing he has help inside. And if 5 goes inside, Billy Schrouth will be inside of Knapp, the left tackle, on this one. I just think when you give guys one gap instead of a two-way go, it allows you to be aggressive and to set that edge and not concede it. So I feel as though that's a simplification, but you need to have an extra blocker, whether it's Aeneas Williams as a running back, whether it's a tight end in there. You've got to be able to have from your guard over sliding one direction.
Look at this analysis from Bob Morton breaking down the film, and you get it for free on our Blue and Gold YouTube channel. All right, we'll keep it rolling.
Let's go to Wagner, not taking the party to the defensive end, completely turns his body to the sideline. So another soft edge. He needs to stay square. He's turning way too early, conceding that full edge. You see, anytime this back foot drops like this, that is an issue. Emil Wagner has a little bit of problems right now in pass pro. Let's talk about Knapp out here. Same thing.
This was on the first drive, I want to say, and CJ gets out of the pocket and throws it away. This was actually the first play where I was like, because Knapp gets just torched here.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, damn, CJ, like, that was nice. Like, all right. That was like one of the more impressive plays where he just gets out of the pocket and throws away.
And I'll say, I don't mind Knapp's start here. I think
why is he helping inside?
So there's actually, you just see how wide that. So you've got a nose on that side, then you've got your defensive tackle who's more lined up as an end, and then you've got the end who's kind of like a blitzing linebacker, just based on assignment. And so if that end drops, I mean, Knapp needs to be there and have one hand on the inside guy as he's drifting back. He just can't whiff with his hands. That's it. So be there, be present. Once he feels that Schrouth is there, like, he's just got to kick out and take this guy rushing. He just missed with his hands because he stopped his feet a lot on Sunday night.
Okay, I'll let it roll.
Bit of problems right now in pass pro. Let's talk about Knapp out here. Same thing. Completely concedes to the defensive end. Haven't even touched each other yet, and this foot is all the way dropped. There is such a soft edge to the quarterback here. Gets his arm swiped down. Joe Rudolph, their offensive line coach, is not happy looking at this tape. Knapp right here again. Retreats.
No punch.
And just not in a good position. Once again, really soft edge, not taking the battle to the defensive end, gets bull rushed. And then Knapp on this last rep tries to throw that independent outside hand, gets it swiped down. And because, once again, they keep dropping this back leg, a soft edge, he's able to swipe that down, get around the edge.
So I agree. This soft edge is a recurring thing. I would actually say it's more of a result than it is a cause. And what you're seeing, I think, with Knapp really well, even on this, he gets his hand on him. It's not a punch. When you really punch, you're kicking through that punch and you're extending wider. So you're actually punching while your foot is kicking wide, and you can keep going that direction. When he doesn't get a punch on, his body naturally leans into the contact. And then when you're leaning forward, your foot has to go back to brace. And that's what's creating the soft edge. So I don't think the soft edge is creating the problem. The soft edge is a symptom of the fact that neither of our tackles are really aggressively using their hand.
Gosh, this soft edge is, I don't know. It's making me feel some type of way hearing this soft edge term just over and over again. So, like, how fixable are these things?
So I'll say this. I think Knapp. So both these guys are fixable, right? I think I don't know why Emil Wagner is suddenly trying to slide out to a person as opposed to kind of getting depth with his shoulders square. And I don't know. I mean, Knapp has never been really great with his hands. It's a critique that I had of him last year, not super aggressive with him. So I don't know if he's going to be able to turn that corner. It can be really difficult if you're not a natural born tackle to do natural born tackle things against really athletic ends. And so he's just got to be able to be aggressive with that hand and time punches where he's actually kicking out wider, so that even if he misses, a defensive end's not just going to wrap around his hip and get straight to the quarterback. Like, it's just, are they fixable? Yes. Do I have concern with Knapp at left tackle because these are some of the same things we saw last year? Yes, as well. And so, they've really got to look at a lot of different options, and maybe, we'll hear what some of those are, but I have no idea what's on the table.
Make sure you guys are following Landon. His Twitter is at Landon Tangle. I think he does a really good job. And
yeah,
I didn't ask him if we could do that, but hope he doesn't mind. And then follow Bob Morton, which this show last week, we did it last Wednesday. He had like 428 followers. He's one away from 600.
Man,
let's get him to 600. So go follow Bob. And let's get him to like 1,000 by the Texas A&M game. You think we can do that?
Listen, I am blown away just by the interactions that I've been able to have on social media. I promise I try to give a couple evenings a week to respond to some of those. There's so many great questions that I've seen just in the live feed that, I will try to answer in some of my posts over the next couple of days, because I think some of the questions and frustrations that I'm seeing are very valid. I just want you guys to know you're some of the smartest fans in the country. You guys are seeing a lot of what you're seeing is 100% accurate. The only thing that I hope to offer is one other perspective, that sometimes certain things aren't the cause, they're the symptom. And some things may not be the symptom, they might be the cause. And so I just might be coming at it a little bit differently. But let me just say, every single problem that somebody saw on Sunday night, we all saw it. We're just either perceiving it or we're analyzing it a little bit differently. But I've been really impressed with how many non-offensive linemen have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the Notre Dame offensive line right now.
If you have to run, it's totally fine. We can.
I'm going to be here for a little bit longer.
Hell yeah! All right, we got a few more things. I like kind of doing this at the end. Like I'll just like queue up some tweets and like, hey, let's. This is Jack Sobel tweeted the video of Boubacar Traore's sack. Oh no, this was not even the sack. I don't know about this. I mean,
so this is something that we saw twice, right? So Boubacar did it once, and then we saw KVA actually blow up that puller and then make the play as well. Here's the thing that worries me a little bit. I think this is a great individual effort. If he doesn't make this play, that running back's still running. And when I say it felt like defensively we hung on, it felt like there were a lot of times that there was one possible guy who could make a tackle, and that one guy made it. And Miami would have 2 or 3 guys that could make a tackle. And it just felt like they had us boxed in a little bit more.
So tell me about this specific play. So I see Bowen flowing on the jet sweep. I see, and then obviously this is a man defense. You see, what is that? Is that a Devontae Smith going in motion? Rubio gets taken out of the play, and Osbury is kind of flat-footed. Like, are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing?
Interestingly, Bowen's not actually going with the sweep here. If you look at the defensive line, they're all slanting to their right, our left.
Oh, so that's
okay. And so Bowen is scraping over the top to essentially take Boubacar's, Traore's responsibility in the gap. And so Traore makes that tackle. Now, when the defensive line is slanting to our left, the linebackers have to scrape over. So even though he had a better game, I'm a little nervous about where Osbury is, because, again, Traore doesn't make that tackle. There is a pretty big gap
right here
to the safety. Yeah, I mean, it's right there because Osbury isn't filling, and that's his spot to fill, given that that kind of zone blitz there.
Great shit. Danny Cannell. Say what you want about him as an analyst, but I like the tweet. CJ Carr playing like a 6-year senior. Unreal poise. Did you see that poise in your rewatch?
I did. Yeah. I think that, I think we were concerned about him going into the game because we expected him to exert his dominance earlier in the fall and claim that position. And it went later and later and later. And so I was really nervous about what he was going to do. But everything from the first ball he threw away, obviously the touchdown pass where he decided to run 40 yards to throw for 5. And then some of the ways that, he handled himself, even in the running game. I'd like him to not take the shots because his body isn't Riley Leonard's body yet. It was just really impressive to see how cool, calm, and collected, and how well he handled a pretty crazy and raucous atmosphere. So really, really happy with where he is in his first start, and would love to see, what it's going to be over the next couple of years as well.
I thought this was freaking hysterical. This is a live look at
a
recap of Notre Dame feeding Jeremiah Love, and it is a woman not feeding her baby the bottle. I thought this was funny.
Yeah, and again, I either said this off air or on air on Sunday. There are some players that make the most of the opportunities that they're given. So you don't necessarily have to feed them to get them going. Jeremiah Love is not that type of player. Jeremiah Love is the best football player we have on both sides of the ball, and it's not a close statement to say. And so there does need to be a number that you have in your head of how many times you want to get him the ball running, laterally, downhill, how many times you want to throw it to him out of the backfield, how many times you want him in the slot, how many trick plays you want to run. Like you've got it. 10 is not enough for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a dynamic player. You even look in the first quarter, there's one play that was not blocked super well that he ended up starting a spin move at the hash and finishing the spin move halfway to the sideline. And it was like I blinked and he phased to a completely different space. He's a special player. And we definitely got to have a countdown of how many plays we're going to get him every day. And I think that's going to be, if we're going to err for the rest of the season, we're going to err on the side of giving him the ball too much.
All right, let's talk about an offensive line play that went well. Tell me what you see on this one. And this little pat here by Lambert's on his left leg. See in a second. What is that?
Yep, let me see the play through real quick, and I'll tell you what it is.
Little draw.
So, I mean, it could be quite simply a feint, meaning typically when you're signaling to the quarterback, you're signaling that it's a pass play, right? So this is very clearly a quarterback draw, and so that pat could quite simply be saying, hey, this is a pass play, so that anybody who watches him is like, okay, we're going to drop into coverage. Now, regardless, what Garrett Lambert does is absolutely perfect. He kicks out. If you look at where he puts his foot in the ground and where CJ Carr puts their foot in the ground, the timing is perfect. And then Garrett gets on his horse, doesn't have to kill him, just has to run through the block. Too often, offensive linemen, this is what I didn't do well. You want to know why Jeff Fain went and had a career in the NFL and Bob Morton didn't, or why John Sullivan was playing for like 13 years and Bob Morton wasn't? Because I would typically run to a block to make sure the guy was blocked, but I wouldn't always just run through. And as a runner with the ball, you don't need a perfect block. You just need the blocker to make up their mind. So Garrett Lambert running through makes it very clear. CJ, if you're getting in the end zone, you're making a step to the right. He gets just enough of them. CJ goes to the right and walks in. So this is really well blocked overall, but Lambert does a great job here.
Yeah, also a really good job by reading this by Carr. I mean, not overly, like, obviously, you don't go to the defender, but like, I still, like, in the heat of the moment, like, I think that was like you wanted to give a shout out to him for the read.
You're in the running lane, and you've got the poise to let everything slow down and make that juke step. I think that's key. Like, we don't need him to be a great runner, but knowing that he has this kind of vision is really helpful in these kind of situations when we weren't really dominating the line of scrimmage at this time.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else did well. Schrouth wins his one-on-one. I love Jay Love getting physical there. Craig, and then, so were you saying, like, Bob Morton here, you wanted to go annihilate and pancake here rather than just make the simple play?
I would say my first 2 years, I would get up there and I would shield him, right? So Bob's going to run up there as fast as he can. He's going to grab him and shield him. And I was going to go, chest to chest with him, and my shoulders were going to be parallel to the line of scrimmage and to the end zone. And so if Brady's coming up, he sees 76, which was my number as well, sitting right there, and he doesn't know, do I go to the right or to the left? What I had to learn, and I learned it in 05 and 06, is I don't have to shield this guy and drive him backwards. I need to just get to my spot and run full speed, because that linebacker, if he's worried about me running full speed, is not going to be able to make the tackle. Yeah. So just run full speed, get your arm, your elbow, your shoulder, your face mask on whatever you can, and make it very clear to your runner to feel where the hole is, not to have to think and decide. Because if 13 stops and stutters in the hole there, then Schrouth's guy peels back and makes the tackle on the 1 yard line. But because Lambert runs through him, he's able to make that half little juke move and just carry his momentum into the end zone. So on a night that I saw a lot of running 2 blocks from our offensive line, we can talk about that a little bit more next week. That was a play where you just saw somebody run through somebody. And when you just go full speed, good things happen.
All right. I got 2 more for you.
Yes, give me 2 more.
All right. So this is actually the play I mentioned earlier where Beck just is sitting super comfortable, clean pocket. Notre Dame brings forward, dumps it off for the running back for a nice gain. Like, what do you see on this one? So there's Beck. Just a little stunt by Traore, but very easily blocked. Zone.
Yep, we're in zone underneath. This is one of the things that frustrated me in the game. You know, when we were so good man to man last year, I think that if you have someone on this running back, he doesn't make this throw. But there was nobody there, and in the zone that's dropping back beyond the sticks, if you can get the ball into the hands of your running back with one guy really to beat, he's going to make that first down a lot of the time. We gave them first downs on that drive that we couldn't really afford to give them, and so I'm really glad that was it Leonard Moore on this side or the DB comes up to make this tackle.
Yeah,
we were pretty good tackling on the outside. We struggled a little bit on the inside at times throughout the game, but this is what your zone is susceptible to. If you're not going to get to the quarterback, that outlet pass is going to be productive for 6 to 8 yards pretty regularly.
It looks like a cover 3 disguised into a cover 2 with Schuler dropping back. Is that what you're seeing here? And then the corner who's playing the flats, you drop until someone comes to the flats. But
So
is that what you're seeing here?
Yeah, there were multiple plays that I wasn't sure and that's one thing. Listen, like I don't know a whole lot about zone defenses other than what I've seen on Madden and NCAA. But the fact of the matter is, like, sometimes you've got a zone in the flat, and sometimes you've got a zone that drops back 10 yards. And I think what's hard for me is the sticks were at 6 yards, and every zone we had dropped past the sticks, and so everything underneath was there. And I've always learned, like, if you're going to play prevent defense against us, like, you don't realize how many yards we can get in 6 seconds. And I think that's what happened at the end of the half is we just kept giving them those underneath throws, but they were happy to take 8-yard gains because they would get a first down, the clock would stop, and they had enough time to get that throw in, before halftime. I would have loved if we were more aggressive, at least with our zone closer to the line of scrimmage, because Beck didn't beat us over the top at all the entire game. There was never a deep ball that really connected. The closest one was the touchdown catch where Eric said it best on Sunday, Xavier Watts is the safety and not Adon Schuler. That's picked and going the other way.
Yeah. Someone had a comment earlier about like mentioning Jagusah and how much better that's going to be. That is going to solve a big problem. I don't even know exactly what problem it's going to solve, but you're going to have your best offensive lineman back. Like, I hope that he gets back sooner than later. And the last tweet is the best one. There it is.
The best one.
There's me and Bob. So this is me and Bob's 3rd show together. But at the time this picture was taken at the halftime of the game, we had only done 1 show together. And then, so 1 show, but 1 meetup. How great was that? So
it was good. And we made the decision not to post this right away. Mike literally tells me, hey, if we win tonight, I'm posting it tonight. If we don't win tonight, I'll post it tomorrow. And that was the thumbs up that my son ended up taking that picture. Shout out to my son Seeley. He got that snapshot of Mike and I.
Nice young man. Just celebrated his 18th birthday. So
no, it was definitely 13, but I appreciate you trying to get him out of my house.
Well, folks, really appreciate you all for tuning in. Hit the thumbs up on this video. I know you liked it. The O-line breakdown with Bob is incredible. And it's like, we just like the O-line is just such a hot topic right now. And it's just like, we just happen to have Bob on staff to break this down. It's absolutely tremendous. The best O-line insider that you're going to find breaking down this stuff. So yeah, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe, go to blueandgold.com. If you like what we're talking about, you're a big Notre Dame fan, you're going to absolutely love blueandgold.com. So head over to the message board, head over to the website, read up, check out the discussion. So you're going to love it. So that is going to do it for this show. Hit the thumbs up if you have not done so yet. And as always, we will catch you next time.